Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors on Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this morning, the day before Thanksgiving. Everybody's getting ready to get that big old turkey ready. We smoke ours. A lot of y'all fry them, and then some of y'all have ham. But anyway, we're gonna have a great time. I know y'all are too. We'll be on the air next 2 days. We'll have some good stuff coming up too. So if you have time, give us a peek. Our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. High today 76, low 56. Might have a little bit of rain coming in later on. It won't be much. Our water temperature is 66 degrees. Take a look at our river readings brought to us by Mountain Dew. Take it outside with Mountain Dew. We're looking at that place called Bluntstown at a 4.3. Nice way to get out there this weekend. It's at a good height and all. Get on some sandbars, do some squirrel hunting. It's going to be a good weekend for that. Our Choctawhatchee-Caryville is at a 2.5. Again, it's got a little bit of a drop to it, but it's going to be in great shape. All of our river systems are really good shape this time of the year. Take a look at our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. We're looking at strong tides. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend to get on the water out in the woods. It's just all kind of good stuff going on. Our low tide is at 6:45 this morning. The high tide is coming in all day at 8:42 tonight. We have right at a 1.8 foot movement. Marine forecast will be coming out of south-southwest at about 10 to 11. Nice day, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and as I promised yesterday, Steve Shea showed up. Good morning, Steve.
Good to see you, Winston.
Always great to have Steve. We got so much to talk about, as you can imagine. Some great pictures and all. But first, let me mention the sale, the Black Friday sale down at Blue Water Outriggers. We've talked about yesterday about that nice set they had, but here's some of the other stuff they have, all kind of stuff. Black Friday sale at Blue Water is always outstanding, and then right next door, Walter Green, you can get some really good stuff. And they sent me this. I just want to show you some of the things. So if you get a chance, a great day to ride down there. I tell you what, I'm not a big shopper, but if I was a shopper, that's where I would go to get away from all the crowds and all. I love going down to a place like that. You've been to Blue Water quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve, let's get started, buddy.
Hey.
Well, what's been going on?
Well, I just got back from Missouri. We had a great archery season up there. I mean, I think just about every one of our members killed a good buck during archery season, which I think is the first time we've ever done that. So,
yes.
So we had I killed a monster, so I was happy. God blessed me again.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, we got a couple of pictures now. Let's talk about this picture here.
All right, this is actually a good friend of mine, Mitch Burke. He's the property appraiser over in Gulf County.
Okay.
And Mitch has been on my lease in Missouri for years. I used to work with him with St. Joe, but he killed a nice Pope and Young buck. There's a nice 8-point. We had pictures of that deer. He scored in the low 130s. I mean,
wow.
Nice 8-point. Good buck. Good buck.
Nice buck. Okay, what about this one?
And that's Hal Keels. Hal owns a landscaping business in Port St. Joe, and this is a giant 8-point. I mean, this deer scored about 147 inches. He killed that with his crossbow. That was a nice deer, 4.5-year-old buck.
Oh, the woods and all look beautiful out there.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
How many acres y'all hunt on up there?
We have 1,800 acres that we have under lease, and been managing that property for 15 years now. So
you got it all set up.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the result. We just keep managing it.
It didn't start that way. I mean, we took some time, and and the deer, we've got more selective basically, and so those deer get another year older, and we start harvesting some. Now most of our guys will kill just 4.5-year-old bucks or older.
Good for y'all.
Yeah.
And you have your cameras. We're going to talk about cameras later, but the cameras have been invaluable, haven't they?
Oh yeah, I put up in the summertime. I'll have a few cameras out all summer. But then I'll have like 16 to 20 out for 2 months prior to when the archery season comes in. Yeah. And it really gives us unbelievable intel. And now we're starting to use those spy point cameras that basically give you instant images that send them to your phone. And being able to figure out just minimal shifts in bucks that are using your property, and it gives you immediate intel so you can make management decisions from hunting, which stand you want to go to, and it really helps a lot, sure does.
Now this coming from one of the deer experts in America, and they're talking about the cameras and all. I fell in love with it. That's what we're using now. We have them at C&G, and it's just amazing. And you're saying the same thing then.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable the things that you can do. Is we actually take the tarsal glands off the bucks that we kill. And when we, in September, we open up scrapes, traditional scrape sites that deer use from year to year, lots of times they stay pretty much under the same tree for a long time. And we'll actually cut the hairs off the tarsal glands into the scrape. And that retains, the different pheromones on there. And when you do that, those bucks will gravitate to that scrape and actually set up. And we find that the scrapes that we use those tarsal gland hairs on, far more activity than any of the other ones. So these little things that we've figured out over the years to really help maximize the utility of our cameras just helps you tremendously.
Wow, what a great idea. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Is something that you volunteered to do, and this is just something exciting to all of us. Attention hunter, this is the Florida Hunters for the Hungry. So tell us about what's going on here.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a life-changing event in my life a couple of years ago that brought me back to God in my spiritual life, and really I had this desire to try to help others, and just how I live my life now, and so I didn't know what it was, and I worked with my church group to try to find ways to help those in need in the community. It was funny. I'm a Catholic, and when I was up in Missouri, and I went to confession, and the priest didn't know who I was or what I was trying to do, and he told me, he said, your penance is to use your skill set to find a way to help others in your community. I said, all right, that was my calling.
There you go.
And so then I looked to see about Hunters for the Hungry. A lot of 39 states in the United States have some form of a Hunters for the Hungry program. And what they do is they actually open a nonprofit in their individual state, and they do business as Hunters for the Hungry. So I found out that in Florida, there was a Christian couple from Virginia that was part of their Hunters for the Hungry program. And they came to Florida and started a 501c just this year. So this was the first year they were getting going. So I hooked up with his name, Tracy and Angie Gravert, and great couple, and so they were looking for ways to grow. So basically, they made me the North Florida coordinator. And I said, okay, we're going to start this year in Panama City. So and so what we're doing is just starting small, but the Deer Shack, Cody Behrens has agreed to be the processor here locally. We have a couple of different churches that have already committed their Christian ministry food banks to accept the processed meat. And so we're asking all hunters that bring your deer into the Deer Shack to just donate a few packs of hamburger or a few packs of sausage. And just with the numbers that they get in, we could get 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of meat that we could donate. And the thing is when I reach out to these different Christian food banks, they are in dire need of food because Hurricane Michael has really depleted the resources that they have available to them. So establishing this program in Panama City comes at the right time where we can really help these food banks feed those for people that really need it. So
wow, this is something really good that we're always talking about helping our fellow man and all. And a couple of packages off each deer is just a great way to do it. And we appreciate Cody jumping in there and helping out. And we're going to talk more about this as time goes on. But this is really good. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and finish this up. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Sit here with biologist Steve Shea, and what an awesome guy. I just think the world of him. Just not just his knowledge, but you see what kind of person he is, what kind of man he is, giving back to our community and all, and trying to get some help. This is a great idea. So let's finish up on this. This is good stuff.
Yeah, one of the questions I got right away is, we're counting on hunters' generosity to donate a portion of the harvest that they pay to process. Well, people say, well, what if I want to donate a whole deer or a whole hog? How do you do that? So what we're doing is we're also accepting donations. We have an account set up here in Panama City at Regions Bank, and so if someone wants to write a check to Florida Hunters for the Hungry, that will go into that kitty, and then when people bring a whole deer in, we can actually pay the processor for the cost to have that processed, and then send it to the different Christian food banks. So
that is great. And you mentioned something off air that about the public perception of hunters across America is pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 80% of United States citizens that don't disapprove of hunting. Yeah. And when you have programs like this where it shows that hunters are responsible members of the community and they're doing other things to help others in the community, it's just a win-win for everybody. And like we had talked about, this is what everyone should be doing, and I'm guilty of not having done it enough in the past. And like I said, once you establish that relationship with God, and He's leading you.
Yeah,
Then it just comes naturally, and hopefully by doing that, others will do the same thing in all different aspects. There's so many ways that you can help people, but this is way hunters with the things that we do that we can help.
So we're going to just start it this year here locally, but later on we want to expand it to other areas.
Yeah, we're hoping to, it depends on the responsibility that they give me as the North Florida coordinator, but I hope to start reaching out to Tallahassee, Pensacola, and start expanding the program so we can try to have as many different locations across the state as possible to help those in need. So
yeah, we have a lot of our smaller, the Marianas, the Chipleys, and the St. Joe's and all. There's a lot of hunters over there.
Yeah. So if there's any of y'all watching out there that that I don't know how far your show expands.
It covers 9 counties.
9 counties. Reach out to me. If you show my phone number again, and we'll see what we need to do to get you set up so you can start participating next year. And the other thing too is we're just using the Deer Shack this year, but I hope that we can get the other processors from Panama City next year so we can be inclusive. We're not trying to be exclusive.
That's
it's
true.
just we just start small, work the bugs out, and then expand from there. So
yeah, okay. Here's Steve's number right here: 850-227-8455. So you have that on your screen there, and you touch base with them, and let's help folks out. As simple as that. Now we were talking. We got all that covered, right?
Yep, we're good. Thank you so much.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right, we were talking about cameras and all. How getting back to cameras, how important they are, and as a biologist, you've even added information for you as far as tracking and finding where they are. This picture right here. Tell us about this picture.
Oh yeah, this is actually the buck that I killed. We had, it's funny how lots of hunters they name deer that are big. We called him Chubbs, but I knew this deer because he had a split ear on his left side. You can see that that's cut in his ear. And actually last year he was a 3.5 or 4. I think he was a 4.5-year-old deer last year. He actually had a bigger rack. And he had an injury I noticed when I dressed him that could have caused his antlers to get a little smaller. But he still scored, right at 160, just under 160. He actually, I think you have another picture. He got in a really. That's not him.
Okay, that's another one.
No, that's a different buck.
Okay.
But it was obvious that he was a fighter. I mean, we had trail camera pictures of him. His body was all scarred up. One of his eyes, his left eye, was put out. He ended up breaking part of his main beam. Yeah, that photo right there. You can see that his left eye is put out. He ended up breaking the end of his main beam off, was all scarred. And we noticed by our trail camera pictures that he shifted his range on the farm. He used to stay in the central area of the farm. Then we were only getting pictures of him on the north side of the farm. And I was actually hunting him in the central portion of the farm. And then when we checked the intel, we said he shifted his range, and we could see that he had gotten a fight, and probably his range overlapped with another big buck, and he shifted. And so what I did is I looked at the aerial photographs. This is where you use science and technology to help you. I said, where would I kill this deer at? And I said, this is the spot right here. So my buddy and I went in, put a stand up. The wind was right. 2 hours later, I got in that stand and I killed that deer in 20 minutes.
No kidding.
Yep.
You've done a lot of work ahead of time.
Yeah. It's just, but awesome. The cameras were critical to making that decision in placing a stand in a different place.
Yeah. Okay, so, that's awesome.
Yeah, this buck is actually that photo you showed of Hal Keels, that big 8-point. That's a picture of him. He's still in velvet.
I was going to say, it looks like velvet right there.
Yeah, but so that, I think the 6 deer we harvested during the archery season, we had 5 of them on camera.
Now you got them all coming in at nighttime, right?
No, we have sometimes you'll get. Here's a daytime picture.
Okay.
This is the photo of the deer that Mitch Burke killed.
Okay.
The property appraiser in Gulf County is that was a daytime picture. So.
Are you getting any pattern from your cameras, like 10 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the afternoon? You get kind of pattern. I wonder if anybody's doing studies on that.
No, it's we put cameras, because you can't bait. We used to have bait stations in Missouri, but now with CWD you can't do that anymore. So you can't use attractants. So we had to get innovative on how to still get good photographs. So we open up those scrapes early, and then there's certain traditional trails that go into the agriculture fields. So we put them on those trails, and what we'll do too is from a livestock perspective, they can still put out salt walks for livestock, and so most of the area where we hunt is cattle country. And so we'll have cameras at those stations. We'll get a lot of picture of cattle, but we'll also get deer that actually come into those mineral sites. So you just try to use the situations that you have to try to get the best intel you can, basically what it comes down to. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, when's the rut up in that area?
Well, the first 2 weeks in November is prime time.
Okay.
Yep, and we kill most of our deer during that. Of course, we concentrate our efforts there too.
Right.
But we did have a couple guys go early during the pre-rut, and they killed a couple bucks during the pre-rut. But in the Midwest, first 2 weeks in November is like it's unbelievable.
That's when it's happening.
A lot of chasing, bucks chasing, and. Yeah.
And it's interesting what you said when they're fighting each other, and they'll have the dominant buck will take over that area, and then the others will just. I mean, that's you know that.
Oh yeah. You see them. It's funny. It's on several occasions I saw bucks. Sometimes 4 or 5 bucks chasing the same doe that she's coming in close to coming into heat, and it's the little ones are always trying to get in there. But I've actually watched dominant bucks that had a doe pinned down, who she was actually breeding him, and he would basically protect. They call it facultative territoriality. He protects a 50-meter radius around that deer. Wow. And he'll stand there and you'll see 2.5-year-old bucks circling, and he'll stay right with that doe, and as soon as they break that perimeter, he'll go and he'll chase them off. But it's funny, as you watch the other ones, they're opportunists. As soon as he goes, they're hurrying up trying to get in there.
Nature is amazing to me.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's the research has shown, they do genetic studies, and they find that a high percentage of does that have twin fawns, that there'll be actually different fathers of the fawns. So it's obvious that the does are breeding several males, and based on being opportunistic. So it's not like one male pins around and has his way with her. It's not. It's other ones are trying to, and the genetic studies have proven that. So
that's interesting. That's interesting. We'll be right back, folks. Okay, welcome back. Today we're Steve Shea. Let's talk a minute. Let's do our fishing game times first, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. We're looking at 12:06 this morning to 2:06, and then this evening 12:34 to 2:34. Now, last time we didn't show all the pictures, and you about got in trouble because we left out a picture. So we're going to have to pull it back up, okay? And tell us, let me see.
Yeah, last show I was on, we showed a bunch of different fishing pictures, and my grandson, who I probably fish more with him than anyone.
And what did he say?
He said, "Papa, how come you didn't show me?" I was like, "Oh, I felt so bad." But that's my grandson Eli Newsom, and I spend so much time with him, and we fish a lot. That's right off the dock where I live in Marina Bay. We can catch a lot of trout off the dock there, and so he goes out with me a lot, and he loves to fish. Well, I tell you what, he's 6 years old. He goes to Southport Elementary. He's the first grader. Yeah.
And you were talking about your buddy's snapper season. We can't pull a picture.
Yeah.
You had a good snapper.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to fish though. The hunt season comes in. One of those weekends was wiped out from the tropical storm. They added another weekend. I think the first weekend of November, and I was already up in Missouri hunting. But the guys that I knew that went, they were pretty successful. Now, there was a lot of heavy pressure during the season, so a lot of the fish were smaller, but there were still fish out there, and they caught a bunch. I think I may have sent you a photo.
I'll make sure tomorrow. I'll try to pull it up. We'll make sure tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, listen. Let's talk a minute about bears. Okay. Yeah. We all have. So you give us your perspective on the bears.
Well, we have no shortage of bears here in in the Panama City area and the counties outside this area. But any of you guys, it's funny is the FWC has really done, I think, a very good job in establishing programs to minimize conflict for bears in urban areas, and I think a lot of the public realized that we had a lot of bears because that was such a problem. Well, now a lot of those problems have been minimized through the programs that the FWC has established. And so they think, a lot of people may think, well, there's not as many bears now. Well, it's just not because they're not seeing them. Like us hunters who are in the woods all the time, and especially if you have feeders, there's plenty of bears out there. And we've seen no reduction on my lease.
Yeah, these are some of the pictures you sent, and you got plenty.
Yeah. Now you can tell that's a big bear.
That is a big bear.
And if you look at that crank on that bear, see, these are bear-proof feeders, so they're on poles so the bears can't get to them. But that crank or winch is chest high. on me.
Okay.
And so you see that bear, it only comes up only half. So that's the half of the height of that bear. Wow. You see there, he's reaching up. He can't reach the feeder. Yeah. But you know that bear, he's pushing 500 pounds.
Wow.
That one. But
everybody I run into now, I mean everybody, 100% of people that have their feeders and all. What's the best way to keep them away from the feed?
Well, the biggest thing is put them on a pole. I mean, so the bear can't get up it. And some people will shift to soybeans. Bears, they love shell corn, but they don't eat soybeans as much. And so what a lot of guys do is they'll start with shell corn, and they'll slowly wean it down, cut it with the soybeans, and then use all soybeans. And the bears don't gravitate or attracted to the soybeans as much as they are the corn. So that's one method. Some guys will actually hang feeders. You definitely don't want to use gravity feeders. Nothing on the ground. It all has to be elevated. In any way you can elevate a feeder so it's the bears can't get to it, that's basically what you have to do. Yeah. And even then, as you saw in those pictures, they'll still come. And sometimes they'll push that pole. What I had to do last year is my poles gradually started leaning because the bear's pushing on them. And so we had to put more sackcrete around them and bolster them up. Because they'll push it, and if they can get that thing to swing, it'll shake food out.
They're intelligent.
They're like a giant raccoon. I mean, they can figure out ways to get to that food, but there's things you can do to minimize it. So. Well,
that's a big thing, and I get more feedback. I've got more feedback this year on the bears and all. And of course, I've seen more myself. And I was just wondering how, as a biologist, soybean is a good alternative, though.
Yeah, but it's a lot more expensive.
It's about double.
And you're going to have to order it because a lot of places don't carry it.
That's right.
Shell corn during hunting season you can get anywhere.
Yeah.
But soybeans is another story. You're going to have to order it and have a supply, and so. What I try to do, my philosophy is bear-proof your feeder as much as possible, and you can make shell corn work. And a lot of guys don't have the opportunity to plant. We're lucky where we have pretty large food plots. So if the bears even come into the feeder, the deer and hogs don't like that. I mean, they will stay away from the feeder, but they'll come to the green field.
Good point.
And so if you have opportunity to plant, that's your best way so you don't put any corn out. But
well, Steve, we've run out of time again.
It just flies when we talk.
We got a lot more stuff to talk about. Thank you so much. And share the harvest. We're going to talk
share
about
the harvest.
That.
And have a blessed Thanksgiving, and I hope everyone in our community has a blessed Thanksgiving. And be safe when you're in the woods. That's really important.
Amen. Yep. Y'all have a great. See y'all tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.